Hello guys, welcome back to LR Anime. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of BTTH Rebirth of Emperor Yang episode number 232 based on novel. So let's start. The huge fire lotus is in full bloom on the top of BG Mountain. The world is one of the earthquakes. Driven by the wind and cloud, the energy storm full of destruction suddenly sweeps across the mountain. Everyone above the mountain has changed their faces. One face after another with a look of panic turns recklessly and rushes down the mountain for fear of being involved in the energy storm and suffering from the fish in the pond. At this moment, even those elders and deacons of Beihuang Hall also dodged regardless of others. As for Qin Shu and Seer in the air, they were ignored. If Xiao Yan hadn't deliberately dispersed the energy storms close to them, I'm afraid they would be hurt a lot at this time. For a long time, when the storm dispersed, Xiao Yan turned his head indifferently and looked at Qin Shu and Seer. Seeing the appearance of these two people at this time, Xiao Yan frowned and flashed slightly. In the twinkling of an eye, he had appeared in front of these two people. When he was ready to make a move, his heart moved slightly and stopped. With such a close proximity, Xiao Yan could vaguely feel that in Qia's body at the moment, there seems to be an extremely strong force continuously condensing and improving, and the strength of this force is something Xiao Yan has never felt in Qia before. It can be said that such a strong force is definitely promoted and reached in a short moment. The idea flies in his heart. Then Xiao Yan looks at Qin Shu suspiciously. If so, I'm afraid the only explanation is Qin Shu. Is it? As soon as he picked his eyebrows, Xiao Yan seemed to think of something. He immediately thought about it. The huge soul power in the center of his eyebrows immediately gushed out, gently pasted it on Qin Shu's body and carefully explored it. When Xiao Yan felt the huge source qi in Qin Shu's body, his eyes were frozen. Unexpectedly, Qin Shu, who originally planned to capture Seer's magic spirit pupil, would be swallowed by Caia. Now, not only can he not get the magic spirit pupil, but all his accomplishments should be swallowed clean. This is really surprising. Looking at Qia's body, the huge power is still gathering madly. Judging from Xiao Yan's exploration, up to now, Qia's cultivation is almost at the beginning of the source territory. When he realizes this, Rao can't help taking a breath of cool air with Xiao Yan's mind. His heart is filled with emotion. Imagine how many years he has been practicing. How many hardships did he have before he got the cultivation in the middle of today's incarnation of the source territory? Look at Qia again. However, when the girl grew up, she actually had such cultivation, which made him feel a lot of pressure in his heart as a teacher. Looking at Qia's situation, I'm afraid it will last about half an hour. During this period, Xiao Yan is not in a hurry, but at this time, another beautiful shadow finally came here on the way up the mountain. It's the little doctor. For the sake of safety, Xiao Yan originally placed the little medical fairy at the foot of the mountain, but unexpectedly, the latter actually followed up. Although it was a little slow, he also avoided all the trouble moments. Seeing the arrival of the little doctor fairy, Xiao Yan had no choice but to smile. He guessed what was happening at present. After all, he was too familiar with the former. You did come up. After taking a long breath, Xiao Yan took a pill and showed the lotus of Buddha's anger, but he consumed a lot of source qi in his body. Maybe it's because the different fire in his body is the Numenon. The different fire becomes stronger, and the consumption of energy naturally becomes larger. This is also the reason why a Buddha anger lotus can kill a strong man in the later stage of Huyuan territory. It's not easy to see you again. I really can't bear to watch you leave for fear that you won't come back. The little doctor smiled gently. Although the smile seemed free and easy, there was a different charm in the beautiful eyes. Hearing the speech, Xiao Yan couldn't help scratching his head. Of course, he understood what you meant, but then Xiao Yan raised his head again, showed a brilliant smile at the corners of his mouth, and said slowly, "Don't worry, I won't get lost this time." Seeing the smile on Xiao Yan's face, the little doctor smiled pleasantly, but there was fog in his eyes. Seeing this, Xiao Yan couldn't help but be stunned and hesitated for a moment. When he was about to move, the little doctor quickly rubbed his eyes and said with a smile, "When did you learn to say such funny things?" Then, they were silent for a time. Soon, The process of Xia swallowing the source gas in Qinshu was finally over. The short-term deadlock in the field was broken, and the atmosphere suddenly became much easier. Qia's delicate body was soft and almost fell back. Xiao Yan quickly helped him up. The little doctor also threw his eyes over. As for Qinshu, he was devoured by Qia. Now the latter seems to have become a useless man. Qia fell into a coma temporarily, but in the corner of his eyes, another drop of tears fell. Seeing this, Xiao Yang sighed deeply and put it gently on the ground. Then, he looked at Qinshu, who was also in a coma at this time. A sharp color flashed through the depths of his eyes. Looking at Zhu Qiong's body, which was deeply hit on the ground of the square not far away, Xiao Yang took out a crystal coffin from Naji and put it away. Then he left BG Mountain with little medical fairy, Xia Aya, and Qinshu. On the way, Xiao Yang and his party passed the Chilean Gobi. Here, Xiao Yang can't help recalling the scene when he first met Xing Qian. He also remembers that he still owes the elder a pill. When he recalls Xing Qian, Xiao Yang's heart is full of gratitude. After all, if it weren't for the latter, he might have fallen into Qinshu's hands. Now looking back, Xiao Yang can't help feeling a little. However, at this time, Xia woke up, and then Qinshu naturally died in Xia's hands. This can be regarded as avenging his brother himself, and this is the reason why Xiao Yang will take Qinshu with him. Although killing is not the most effective way to solve all things, Qinshu killed her brother in front of Qia. If she doesn't repay her revenge, Xiao Yang is afraid that sooner or later she will become Qia's heart knot, which will have a great impact on her future. Of course, how Qia feels after killing people can be judged from the tears rolling down her cheeks. Xiao Yang did not give comfort and stop. Many things need to be borne by people themselves, and the painful process also needs to be digested and absorbed by themselves. The help of others will often only be mixed into other ingredients, which may not be able to achieve good results. On the contrary, if Qia can bear it alone and get out of the haze of this event, Xiao Yang can be sure that Qia has become half a strong man. As for the other half, it is her own cultivation. One day later, Xiao Yang and his party, who left BG Mountain and passed through the Chilean Gobi, came to Fengcheng, which is the most central area of the northern wilderness. Recently, a grand event once every 5 years in Fengcheng is also being held here. Obsidian Tower. More than 2 months have passed since the opening of the Obsidian Tower, and the flow of people gathered in Fengcheng is becoming larger and larger. However, until today, no one has been able to successfully enter the Obsidian Tower, not because of anything else, but because of the black murderous god standing in front of the Obsidian Tower. Since the Obsidian Tower was opened 2 months ago, many strong people have entered the Obsidian Tower. However, after stepping into the gate of the Obsidian Tower, all of them were killed by the black figure. A simple punch, a strong man at the level of 9-star duty, was blasted by Shengsheng. The appearance of this scene stunned all the people present, and their eyes full of horror gathered on the Obsidian Tower. Their shock and fear deterred them from the pagoda. Soon, as usual, the East, West and South Hall leaders of the North Wasteland Hall gathered in Fengcheng. They haven't seen each other for 5 years. Now the East and West Hall leaders have become the existence of the peak of the late 9-star duty. They are only one step away from the source of Hua Yuan. Of course, this step may not give them a chance to step out all their lives. As for the South Hall Lord, after 5 years of punishment, he really hasn't left the South Hall, but his cultivation has not improved without improvement. In 5 years, the South Hall Lord has also improved his cultivation to the middle of Hua Yuan territory. His cultivation is among the strongest in Fengcheng today, but no one else can match it. However, even so, when the 3 people saw the black figure in the Obsidian Tower, their hearts were also slightly chilly. From the black figure, they obviously felt an extremely domineering atmosphere of deforestation, which was extremely heavy. Even as the South Hall leader in the middle of the source territory, they also felt a trace of pressure in their hearts. However, what shocked the South Hall Lord most was that he recognized the guy standing in front of the Obsidian Tower. Isn't this the puppet that followed Xiao Yang? At the beginning, the puppet was sealed in the Obsidian Tower. Unexpectedly, in 5 years, this thing was not crushed by the terrible gravity in the Obsidian Tower, but also promoted. Yes, This black figure is no one else. It is the North King who was sealed in the Obsidian Tower because of the South Hall Lord 5 years ago. Over the past 5 years, the North King has not been damaged by the Obsidian Tower, but has become more powerful. Even if the Master of the South Hall sees it, he will be moved by it. Looking at the North King in front of him, the thought of the South Hall Lord turned rapidly. In the depths of his eyes, he couldn't help but have the color of greed. At the beginning, when he was the 9-star fighting emperor, the puppet made him suffer. The Northern King was terrible in both combat and defense. Now the Northern King spent 5 years in the Obsidian Tower. If he could control it, coupled with his own cultivation, Qin Shu would no longer be able to threaten him. However, due to the East and West Hall Masters beside him, the South Hall Master temporarily pressed down his thoughts. If he started at this time, once they found out, it would inevitably cause him a lot of trouble. In addition, if he could not control the North King at that time, but caused Qin Shu, the result would be more than the loss. Therefore, the South Hall Master's plan was to wait for these two people to leave first. And this wait is 2 months. Now, it is only a few days before the Obsidian Tower is closed. Obviously, the East and West Hall leaders have no intention to leave, which makes the South Hall leader more nervous. In addition to being anxious, the South Hall Master took advantage of the absence of the East and West Hall Masters to come to the Obsidian Tower alone. Looking at the North King standing in front of the Obsidian Tower like an iron tower, the South Hall Master was a little impatient. He hurried to the Obsidian Tower and stopped a few meters away, but he didn't dare to move forward, because he had seen the North King look up. A pair of empty eyes are staring at him ruthlessly. The South Hall Lord has no doubt that if he continues to take a step forward, the North King will immediately fight him. In the face of the latter, Rao is not sure that he can defeat the South Hall Lord because of his cultivation, but fortunately, this distance is enough for him to do something to Beiwang. When the mind moved, the soul power belonging to the middle stage of Huiyuan territory spread outward and approached the North King carefully. A moment later, when the soul power of the South Hall Lord successfully entered the North King's body, his face showed an indisputable smile. The successful entry of soul power has shown that it is the first step from him to successfully control the North King, declared complete. However, just when the soul power of the South Hall Lord had entered the depths of the North King's body and was ready to leave a soul brand, it was an unexpected discovery. No matter how his soul power impacted the original soul brand, the soul brand still stood still, and his offensive seemed to have no effect. Until a quarter of an hour later, the South Hall Lord was impatient. Finally, I waved my sleeve robe with hatred, and I couldn't help scolding. Damn it, what the hell is going on? How can you not break the brand? Of course you can't break through. My soul brand was completely prepared at the time of making. Unless I take the initiative to erase it, no one can erase it by force. Once the soul brand is forcibly destroyed, the puppet will be destroyed automatically. In addition, you look up to yourself if you want to break through my soul brand by relying on your soul power. At the beginning of the 4th level it's over. At the moment when the curse fell in the mouth of the South Hall Lord, a voice of contempt suddenly sounded over the square where the Obsidian Tower was located. The South Hall Lord's face changed in an instant. Turning around and looking, he could not see the speaker everywhere, which deepened his fear in his heart, and the look on his face became dignified in an instant. Someone who hides his head and shows his tail will stand up and say this to me if he has the ability. Hehe, South Hall Master, I haven't seen you for several years. Have you forgotten who the puppet's master is? The sound of chuckling came out again. This time, the South Hall Lord heard it very clearly. The sound seemed to come from above his head. Then the next moment, when the Lord of the South Hall quickly looked up, he saw a young man in a black robe standing above his head. What shocked him most was that he had never felt the fluctuation of the man's breath before. When did you? In addition to being shocked in his heart, he didn't wait for the startled voice from the South Hall Lord to come out. The figure above his head suddenly raised his feet, stepped down heavily, and stepped on the South Hall Lord's shoulder. The whole person's body also flew forward by force. Then he fell on the ground not far away, turned around and showed a handsome face. At the moment, he looked at the South Hall Lord with a smile. Yes. It's you. Seeing this slightly familiar face, The black-robed figure 5 years ago immediately appeared in the mind of the South Hall Lord. His appearance was the same as that of the person in front of him. For a moment, there was an illusion in the heart of the South Hall Lord, as if he had suddenly returned to 5 years ago. However, compared with the situation 5 years ago, today's situation is bound to be very different. On the square, Xiao Yan stood upright. Not far behind him, 2 beautiful shadows came quickly. Immediately, he stood on both sides of Xiao Yan, looking at the South Hall Lord coldly. "Hehe, I haven't seen you for 5 years. South Hall Lord, I'm all right." Xiao Yan grinned and showed a harmless expression on his face, but the leader of the South Hall is not a fool. The former can stand above his head without his awareness. If he doesn't have some strength, how can he do it? He has no doubt in his heart. Now Xiao Yan's accomplishments should be no less than him. "Boy, you're still alive." The corner of his mouth couldn't stop. The leader of the South Hall couldn't believe it. After 5 years, Xiao Yan was still alive. He thought that the latter had fallen into Qin Shu's hands as early as the beginning, but he didn't expect to see him again today, and it was still such a situation. "You are still alive, how can I die?" Hearing the speech, Xiao Yan sneered and stepped forward. In a short time, a momentum belonging to the middle stage of Huiyuan territory swept away like an invisible storm. The face of the South Hall Lord also changed suddenly. In the middle of Huayuanjing. How is this possible? "Ha ha, 5 years, South Hall Lord, how are you making progress?" Xiao Yan grinned, his toes touched the ground, and his body turned into a black streamer. However, in the blink of an eye, he appeared in front of the South Hall Lord, waved his fist and smashed the latter's head. "Damn boy, don't be too arrogant. Even in the middle of Huiyuan territory, others are afraid of you, but I'm not afraid." Seeing Xiao Yan's fierce attack, the look on the South Hall Master's face immediately became gloomy. His heart moved, and the source gas in the cyclone in his body immediately flowed rapidly and gathered in the palm of his hand. Then the palm suddenly clenched its fist and greeted Xiao Yan with an unassailable blow. Bang! Then, in the next moment, their fists collided heavily, and the dull sound of collision suddenly sounded. The 2 intense energies also collided with each other. However, before the grim face of the South Hall Lord appeared, the next moment, an extremely terrible force suddenly burst out from Xiao Yan's fist, which was the source of qi. In an instant, all the energy on the fist of the South Hall Lord was dissolved. Then, the remaining power collided with his fist. Click! With the sound of bone fracture, the right arm of the South Hall Lord was blown off by Xiao Yan's fist. The whole arm was twisted to reveal the broken bones involved in flesh and blood. The red blood soon dyed the brocade robe worn by the South Hall Lord red. The shrill scream also sounded suddenly at this moment. The deafening sound was heard all over Fengcheng. Most of the strong people in the city, they were also disturbed at this moment, including the 2 temple masters of that thing. Soon, a Taoist shadow came from all sides. In just a few minutes, the huge square was covered by dense shadows. Countless Taoist eyes were shocked and looked at the miserable Nandian Lord in the field. Everyone felt incredible. The cultivation of Nandian Lord would be hurt like this by the black-robed youth in the field. What is the origin of this young man? In the middle of the square, Xiao Yan stood in the air and stared at the South Hall Master with a cold face. In the depths of his eyes, there was a sense of erasure. At this time, the leader of the South Hall was also very frightened. He really didn't expect that Xiao Yan in front of him had grown to such a point in just 5 years. The power of a fist was so terrible that he couldn't resist it together with him in the middle of the source territory. It's hard to imagine how terrible Xiao Yan's combat power would be if he broke out completely. "You! What do you want?" The slightly dumb voice trembled and vomited out of the mouth of the South Hall Lord. At this time, the latter's face was red. The pain of the broken arm was unbearable, but he also knew better that his life was more important than the broken arm. "What do you think? You almost killed me 5 years ago. Now I'm back, but you ask me what I think. Don't you think what you said is ridiculous?" Xiao Yan slowly raised a sneer at the corners of his mouth. He would never be soft-hearted towards the enemy, but for those enemies who could threaten their lives, it was necessary to kill them. Even if they could not be eradicated, They must pull out his claws and teeth that could hurt people. Obviously, the current South Hall Lord is not among the latter. Hearing Xiao Yang's words, the master of the South Hall suddenly sank in his heart, endured the sharp pain from his body, and quickly swept his eyes left and right. Then he wildly mobilized the source chi in his body, flashed his body, and rushed out of Fengcheng. Hiss. However, just at the moment when the South Hall took the initiative, in front of the obsidian tower, the North King, who had originally stood still, suddenly shot at his body, like a shell. In an instant, he caught up with the body of the South Hall Lord, and whipped his legs heavily on the front. In the latter's extremely frightened eyes, he bombarded the South Hall Lord's chest. Bang! Fragments of blood mixed with internal organs spewed out. The body shape of the South Hall Lord suddenly fell on the square below like a meteor. The terrible force made the ground hundreds of feet around him sink. The body of the South Hall Lord was deeply buried in the depths of the earth. However, at the moment when the body of the South Hall Lord fell, the body of the North King also fell from the sky, just like a black iron tower. For a moment, he disappeared under the earth. When an extremely heavy collision sound sounded, the breath of the South Hall Lord dissipated in the depths of the earth. Seeing what happened in front of us, all the people in the audience were stunned. Only a few people in the audience were frightened and anxious about how to leave. Then, under the control of Xiao Yang, the North King returned to his side. Looking at the North King in purple and gold, Xiao Yang couldn't help smiling with great satisfaction. At the beginning, the North King was sealed into the obsidian tower. He was afraid that the North King would be destroyed by the terrible pressure. However, he didn't want the North King not to be destroyed, but to be blessed by misfortune. Looking only at the amazing speed and explosive power when he just shot, Xiao Yang can imagine, now, I'm afraid the North King's combat strength is comparable to that of the strong in the later stage of Huiyuan territory. Such strength is a great help to Xiao Yang today. Boom! At this time, the open door of the obsidian tower suddenly closed slowly in a loud noise. The obsidian tower opened only once in 5 years. This time, no one could get in because of the appearance of the North King, which made the people present complain for a while, but that's all. When the obsidian tower was completely closed, the onlookers around the square left with all kinds of feelings. However, just as these people were about to leave the square, Xiao Yang's light laughter suddenly sounded again. Both of you are here. Why are you in a hurry? At the moment when Xiao Yang's words came out, everyone's body couldn't stop. Immediately after that, countless eyes would turn around and fall on Xiao Yang again. 2 of them were coincidental and collided with Xiao Yang's eyes. Countless eyes locked on Xiao Yang. Everyone was surprised. The black-robed man in front of him had killed the South Hall Lord. Why did he stop them now? Did he want to kill them all? Although they all have doubts in their hearts, no one dares to say it. Only the 2 who are stared at by Xiao Yang at the moment are fixed in place in great fear, and their bodies are like sculptures. They can be sure that the 2 people mentioned by Xiao Yang must be him. No doubt, so Xiao Yang not only killed the South Hall Lord, but also killed them. It was not until a long time later that one of the 2 said in a trembling voice, "The matter of the South Hall Lord has nothing to do with us. I wonder if you can be generous and let us go." At the same time, they quickly bowed to Xiao Yang and joked. Now in front of them was a strong man of Huiyuanjing level. With their strength, what else could they do with the latter? As for the death of the South Hall Lord, it's a big deal. When they go back, they go to Beijishan to report to the Hall Lord. The 2 of them don't care about that guy's life and death. As soon as they said this, the other people present immediately focused their eyes on the 2 people. When the people saw the robes they were wearing, they knew it in their hearts. No wonder Xiao Yang would shout at them. It turned out that these 2 people were the east and west of Beihuang Hall. In this way, Xiao Yang not only killed the master of the South Hall, but also turned around to kill these 2. From this point of view, Xiao Yang is determined to be the enemy of the North Wasteland Hall. Of course, these people present at this time did not know that the North Wasteland Hall had been destroyed. They still thought that Qin Shu was still there and that the North Wasteland Hall was still the overlord of the North Wasteland, but they did not know what wonderful expression would appear on their faces if they learned that the North Wasteland Hall had been destroyed. "I don't think it's necessary to leave," Stay. Xiao Yang showed a smile on his face and looked at the two hall masters with a slight smile. There was a flash of essence in the depths of his eyes. Hearing Xiao Yang's words, the hearts of the owners of the East and West halls suddenly cooled. The people in front of them still don't want to let them go. With this in mind, the two couldn't help looking at each other. Now they saw the color of despair in each other's eyes. They clenched their teeth and looked back. At the same time, they raised the fighting spirit in their bodies. Even if they know they are not opponents, they are absolutely unwilling to stand and wait for death. However, at the next moment, when they were ready to fight to the death, Xiao Yang grinned and said, "Stay, join me, join Xiao Men." As soon as he said this, it was like a bolt from the blue, which blew up in the minds of all the people on the court. Xia looked at a loss, only the little doctor fairy, with a look of surprise on his pretty face. At the same time, in his mind, he also emerged the forces that shocked the black corner. Xiao Men, this means that Xiao Yang will rebuild his power here. The name of Xiao Yang will also ring out in the northern region. However, almost everyone present was puzzled about Xiao Yang's words. They had never heard of the so-called Xiao Gate. Is it another emerging sect in the northern region? As for the East and West Hall leaders, their faces also showed different expressions. Unexpectedly, Xiao Yang stopped them. The purpose was actually for this. After some thinking, the expression on the faces of the two hall leaders became a little ugly. Whether they succumbed or not was related to their lives. Once they succumb to Xiao Yang, they are bound to be hated by them in the North Wasteland Hall. They are not listed as a must-kill. However, they are familiar with the strength of the Hall Lord Qin Shu. The latter wants to kill them, which is no different from killing an ant. But if not, Xiao Yang is likely to turn over immediately, and their situation is even more dangerous. After some thinking, the two still clenched their teeth and secretly mentioned their fighting spirit. At the same time, they bowed and hugged Xiao Yang from a distance and said, "Sorry, Mr. Xiao Yang, although we know we are not your opponents, we can't do anything to betray our sect forces, so there's one thing I forgot to tell you." Xiao Yang chuckled with a playful look on his face. The so-called sect power that won't betray themselves is just a high-sounding excuse for the two people. With Xiao Yang's life experience, I can see their thoughts very clearly. Seeing the joking color on Xiao Yang's face, the hearts of the leaders of the East and West halls were sinking. The more Xiao Yang laughed, the more uneasy they felt in their hearts. The fighting spirit in their body moved rapidly to their whole body. The two people were ready to escape here. Qin Shu, the lord of the North Wasteland Hall, was killed by me on the North Jishan Mountain a day ago. Therefore, the North Wasteland Hall has been destroyed. From now on, there is no North Wasteland Hall in the North Wasteland, and Xiaomen has been officially established in Fengcheng. As soon as the word came out, the spirit of everyone present was shocked, and his heart was even more shocked. What kind of power the North Wasteland Hall is, Qin Shu's cultivation is extremely powerful. Looking at the whole North Wasteland, there are few people who can compete with it. In addition, his mind of killing people has greatly increased his fierce name, few people dare to face it. However, it's incredible that such a bloodthirsty butcher can be killed in the northern wilderness, and he is still such a handsome young man. At this moment, even the East and West Hall masters can't believe Xiao Yang's words. They know very well how strong Qin Shu's strength is. He can stand in the northern wilderness for so many years. Qin Shu depends not only on the reputation of the outside world, but also on his extraordinary strength. But Xiao Yang's understatement now says that the former has died at his hands, which is too high-sounding. Ha ha! With a faint smile, Xiao Yang had expected this for a long time. Of course, these people can't really believe and follow him just by his words, so. With a wave of his sleeve robe, the time of Najidan flashed between his fingers. Then, a dilapidated body fell into the middle of the square with a bang. When the people present stared, the faces of the two hall masters of that thing immediately showed a look of shock, because the body was not someone else, it was Qin Shu, the hall master of his North Wasteland Hall. This is Temple Lord. No, it should be said that Qin Shutsai is right. The two people lost their voice and screamed one after another. Their faces changed greatly. At the same time, even the title on their mouth changed accordingly, which made Xiao Yang couldn't help showing a sneer of ridicule. These two guys said that they would not betray the sect. Now they immediately re-export Qin Shu's body, which is really ridiculed. However, other people present at the moment have no time to pay attention to the details of the two people's words. Although these people do not know Qin Shu, they can know from the shocked expressions on the faces of the East and West Hall masters and the words they spit out. The body that Xiao Yang threw out at the moment is indeed Qin Shu, and this, it really confirms what Xiao Yang said earlier. Qin Shu is dead, and the Beihuang Hall can be regarded as completely destroyed. Qin Shu, as the leader of the North Wasteland Hall, died. They alone can't undertake the reputation of the North Wasteland Hall. At the same time, if they continue to hang the name of the North Wasteland Hall on their bodies, I'm afraid they will immediately attract the attention of their enemies. At that time, without the strong people in Huayuanjing as a shield, they will be the leaders of the East and West Hall. I'm afraid they will be killed by all forces in the near future. Therefore, what they lack most now is the protection of a strong man. Only with this umbrella can the remaining forces behind them be preserved, and together with themselves and their families, they can have a chance to survive. Otherwise, I'm afraid there will be no place for them in the northern region. I belong to Tonghui below. I've seen the sect leader, my subordinate Liu Cheng. I've seen the sect leader. After thinking about this in his heart, the two hall masters who came back to God immediately bowed down to Xiao Yang, with a respectful look on their faces. They can't find anything wrong with their appearance. However, Xiao Yang's heart is very clear about this set. The so-called rivers and mountains are easy to change their nature. Although the speed of changing their words is not slow, at least for now, but it's not enough to call him Xiaomen. Therefore, you can use it, but you can't believe it. Get up. Since you have admitted that you are already the people of Xiaomen, I hope you can abide by my rules from now on. Otherwise, I can't guarantee that you will hurt you by mistake one day. Although Xiao Yang was smiling, the words he uttered in his mouth cooled the hearts of the two people. When the invisible pressure fell on their heads, the panic in their hearts immediately became more intense. Cold sweat quickly rolled down from his forehead, and they didn't dare to lift their heads. They bowed to Xiao Yang again. My subordinates will definitely be loyal and helpful in the future, work hard and carry forward my Xiaomen. That's good, that's good. However, I've always been principled. If someone violates my Xiaomen rules in the future, don't blame Xiao for being unkind. When they looked up, they were frightened to find that Xiao Yang's body had appeared in front of them. At this time, the latter was looking at them with a smile. His dark eyes made them hair in their hearts. Don't worry, sect leader. In the future, if someone dares to violate the rules of our Xiaomen, we don't need the sect leader's own hands, we will punish them. If foreign enemies invade, we will let him understand the power of our Xiaomen. The righteous words they said were even more impassioned on their faces. They stretched out their hands and tore off the brocade robe with the logo of Beihuang Hall. Their actions looked decent. That's the best. If anyone is loyal to our Xiaomen, I Xiaoyan will not treat them badly. I think their accomplishments have reached the late stage of 9-star fighting emperor, and they must be only a step away from Huiyuan territory. It's just that I have a 5-level pill Juyuan pill. If they are refined, I believe their strength will be further. Juyuan pill. Is the sect leader still a herbalist? Xiao Yang's words didn't fall in his mouth, but the two faces in front of him immediately showed a surprised look. Juyuan pill and 5-level pill are said to enable the strong at the level of 9-star fighting emperor to condense the source beads in their bodies, so as to promote the source environment. In the past, they didn't have the ability to contact the 5-level herbalist, so they naturally had nowhere to get this pill, but they didn't expect Xiao Yang in front of them to say this. If they can each get a Juyuan pill, their cultivation will certainly be able to upgrade the source environment, which can save them a lot of cultivation time. Of course, at the same time, they were even more shocked that Xiao Yang in front of them actually released strange fire in front of them. At the same time, there was also his terrible soul power, all of which were the identity cards of a pharmacist. Hiss. As soon as they saw this scene, their hearts again thought of the previous battle and the dead Qin Shu. They were surprised. Xiao Yang not only had the terrible combat power beyond the strong in the later stage of Huiyuan territory, but also could become a 5th-level herbalist at the same time. This really doubled their shock again. I'm afraid Qin Shu and the South Hall leader died in Xiao Yang's hands. It's not a shame. After all, the strength of the latter is too terrible. Of course, I can refine the pill and I cannot refine it, but whether I need it or not is not up to me. They know it in their hearts. Taking back the strange fire, Xiao Yang took back his eyebrows and hesitated to put away the danfang held in the other hand. The inexplicable words in his mouth made the two people feel sick in their hearts. Xiao Yang's move was entirely to hit a mallet to a jujube. It's really hard to see that this is what young people can do. Then, Xiao Yishen and Seir came to Xiao Yang successively from the rear. Until this time, Fang Tonghui and Liu Cheng paid attention to Xiao Yang and the North King. They ignored their existence. At this moment, their hearts were cold at the sight. The girl who looked childish but indifferent could not see anything from her appearance, but they could clearly feel that the girl was a strong man in the middle of Huiyuan, such a young person with strong chemical source environment. They couldn't help looking at each other. They were shocked. Then their eyes turned again and fell on the little medical fairy. Compared with the former, the latter's cultivation is undoubtedly much worse, but it's just the 3 stars fighting the emperor. Nevertheless, the insidious breath on her body that is not suppressed also makes the two people worried. That kind of breath is definitely not pretended, but it can make them all feel frightened. From this point alone, it can be sure that this woman is definitely not an ordinary person. Of course, among the 3 people, the one who makes them feel most frightened is Xiao Yang. Undoubtedly, both the mind and strength of the latter are far better than those of their peers. At the moment, after some simple thinking in their hearts, they also found that, in fact, it doesn't seem to be a bad thing to follow behind such a talented strong man. In a magnificent building in Fengcheng, Xiao Yang and Xiao Yishen are sitting in it at the moment. Now Fengcheng is the future garrison of Xiaomen. Naturally, it has become Xiao Yang's territory. As for this attic, it was originally owned by the South Hall Lord of Beihuang Hall. Now the South Hall Lord is dead, and it is logical that it has become Xiao Yang's resting place. Xiao Yang and Xiao Yishen are tired from their continuous journey. Although they have solved the problems in the city for the time being, what they have to do next is the most important. The establishment of Xiao Gate will not be so easy. In such a large northern region, they are afraid that they will encounter a steady stream of problems from today on. Therefore, they need more rest. Xiao Yang and Xiao Yishen arrived here from Beihai all the way. What happened on the way is already physically and mentally exhausted. Although Cai is now a cultivation in the middle of Huiyuan territory, after all, this power has just been obtained and still can't be used stably. Coupled with his brother Zhu Qiong, the whole person's state is also extremely poor. Compared with the two of them, Kia is the one who needs a good rest most. I didn't expect you to set up Xiaomen here. I thought you would go on alone. Sitting in the hall, Xiaoi Shenjiao sat lazily in a chair and smiled at Xiao Yang. He, who says I'm alone, isn't there you? Hearing the speech, Xiao Yang smiled. The little doctor couldn't help pursing his red lips, but Seer's face was still indifferent. However, after hearing Xiao Yang's words, there was a slight movement in the depths of his beautiful eyes. She has no one but her brother in this world. Xiao Yang's words can be said to be the greatest trust in her. Xiao Yang's acuteness naturally found something strange about Cai. His mind flashed, but he didn't say much. His eyes returned to Xiao Yishen and said, "Now, what I can be sure of is that the so-called Ghost Gate must be the people of the Soul family. Moreover, they seem very familiar with me. They almost know most of my skills, but what I know about them is only limited to that they are the Soul family. If you want to confront them head-on, you must build your own forces. Oh, I won't let them chase you like the fledgling ones before. The best solution for them is to take attack as defense." After some words, a cold color also appeared on the little doctor's cheek. She hated the Soul family for a long time, not because of anything else, but because they were Xiao Yang's enemies. On one side, Kia heard Xiao Yang's words. Although she didn't know what the so-called Ghost Gate was, She could also understand from Xiao Yang's words that those people must be Xiao Yang's enemies. As an apprentice, she would not be kind to the master's enemies. After that, Xiao Yang talked with the little doctor one after another and went to rest. After a short thought, Xiao Yang turned and walked out of the hall. After a simple search, Xiao Yang soon came to a relatively hidden stone chamber, opened the stone door. Xiao Yang entered it, sat down, bent his fingers and flicked a huge medicine tripod, then appeared in front of him. It's Luo Tianding. On the one hand, the establishment of Xiao Men is to prepare for meeting the Ghost Break Gate in the future. On the other hand, it is also Xiao Yan's decision to return to the western regions. In the western regions, although all the 4 sect leaders were destroyed, their remaining strength is bound to be swallowed up by Yi Luotian. Xiao Yang still knows nothing about this man's real strength. This guy is a real big trouble. Moreover, Xiao Yang also clearly remembers that Yi Luotian has been following a man in black, and that man is the person in the ghost hall. From this point, Xiao Yang can understand why Yi Luotian targeted himself. If he hadn't had a few good luck, I'm afraid he would have been captured by Yi Luotian and collided several times. Xiao Yang and he have also completely become mortal enemies. Therefore, for Yi Luotian, he must be killed. However, Yi Luotian is a means. Without the control of those main forces, I'm afraid the whole western region will fall into his hands. Xiao Yang can't cope with its huge power alone. Therefore, if he wants to return to the western region this time, he must have enough strength as support. Xiao Men will undoubtedly be the best choice. However, there are still some preconditions to win people's hearts, such as enough to impress people. For the 9-star duty, Juyuan pill is a treasure that can't be rejected. 2 hours later, when the source qi in Xiao Yang's body returned to the peak again, he took out the Dan prescription in the Naji and looked carefully. Then, each medicinal herb flew out of the Naji successively. At the same time, the medicine tripod in front of him also lit up a raging flame, and the stone chamber with dim light immediately became bright. In a few years, Xiao Yang not only changed from a 4th-order herbalist to a 5th-order herbalist, but also the different fire after mutual fusion in his body. The new type of strange fire combined by bone spirit cold fire and sea heart flame is obviously several times more powerful than before, which is not only in the battle, but also reflected incisively and vividly when refining medicine. The medicinal materials put into the medicine tripod, however, withered quickly for a long time. Under the control of Xiao Yang's soul power, the impurities in it were removed one by one and fell into the bottom of the medicine tripod. The rest still floating in the flame are naturally the purest energy among the medicinal materials. The identity of the 5th-level herbalist and the arrogance of the different fire make it easy to refine medicinal materials. Of course, part of the reason is that Juyuan pill, whether the required medicinal materials or the level of the pill, is the lower level of the 5th-level pill. Otherwise, even Xiao Yang can't be so relaxed with the help of the different fire. Time seemed like running water. Unconsciously, Xiao Yang had entered the stone chamber for 10 days. Outside, under the leadership of Xiao Yixin, Zhe began to control all affairs in the city. Fang Tonghui and Liu Cheng did not dare to stop to help close down most of the forces in the city. At the same time, the name of Xiao Gate gradually spread in Beihuang. Soon, there were continuous forces coming to Fengcheng. The arrival of a team surprised the little doctor. That person is Liu Jin, the owner of Longzifang they met in Beihai not long ago. This video will end here.